Good afternoon, comrades and friends, sisters and brothers and family. I've had a Google alert for immigration news on my listserv for years. And in all those years, I have never been so heartbroken and overwhelmed from the news on that alert as I am right now. Since the selection of Donald Trump, 99% of that news is just damn horrifying. Around the country, somewhere right now, in every neighborhood and barrio, a migrant is living in fear. Pregnant women are preparing to have their babies at home so they do not have to make a trip to the hospital. Parents are not sending their children to school. Children do not want to go to school. Stores and services that cater to immigrants are seeing a sharp decline in business. Migrants are missing doctor appointments. Lawyers are receiving more requests to have appointments with their clients by phone. You can go to court on a traffic violation or to the Department of Homeland Security for your regular check-in and get picked up and detained by ICE. I'm assuming everybody knows what ICE is. You can be speaking at a press conference against these policies and get picked up by the Migrant right after, like that which happened to a dreamer recently. Los Angeles schools were shaken last week as the nation saw the 13-year-old daughter of Romulo Avelica Gonzalez record video as ICE agents picked him up just after he had dropped her off at school. All the time she was recording, she was sobbing. As teachers throughout the city console their students, they also had to ask the hard questions. Have you talked to your parents? Do you have a power of attorney? And preparation for more roundups. Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly had to admit that Trump's policies were creating such a fearful climate that more Muslims in the U.S. were seeking refuge in Canada than ever before. Video was recently seen in which migrants are trekking to small wooded areas in upstate New York to cross over into Canada illegally, as they say, and they're doing this because Canada, if you come in legally, so-called legally, you can't apply for refugee status. But if you come in without documentation, you can apply for refugee status. So that's why immigrants are going into more dangerous areas. But recently, with this video that I was referring to, the ICE agents from the U.S. grabbed these Muslims' passports as they struggled to jump into Canada, and the migrant was able to grab the passports from ICE and jump into Canada, and it was like a very good victory. On the PPA listserv this morning, there was a notice the Department of Homeland is auditing a shop where many brand workers are organized, giving them 8 days to come up with proof of status or they will be fired. So be looking out for a notice so that you can support these workers as they're asking for support. In other words, no place is safe. Millions of people are living right now with the anxiety of not knowing what will happen to them tomorrow. They are living in abject fear. I will not say that they are cowering in fear, because for the most part, this is a very brave and heroic community just by the sheer nature of getting to this country. Things have changed so much since January 20th. Things have horribly changed, not just for the undocumented workers, but for all workers. Things were bad before, but it is worsening. And if ever there was a need for a global women's fight back against Trumpism, it is now. Cis and trans women must work to elevate our struggle and escalate the movement 100-fold. Because the Trump cabal is working 24/7 to shape policy in their image, push it far to the right, and do all the gains that workers and oppressed have made for decades. Social Security, health care, environmental legislation are all on the chopping block. Under the Democratic administration of Barack Obama, over 2.5 million workers were deported, carrying out more deportations than any other U.S. president, earning him the title of deporter-in-chief. Trump's policies, however, are on steroids. Under Trump, his unholy alliance with white supremacists, extreme racists, and reactionaries has unleashed the terror of ICE agents on the immigrant community. Trump may not deport as many as Obama, but he might. But one goal is not just to deport, but to drive migrant workers further underground, living in the shadows, making them more and more susceptible to super exploitation. The Trump cabal has not only unleashed ICE, it has waved a red flag in front of them, in front of an already racist, angry bull, and has incited them to go after migrant workers in a huge way, with a hatred of the oppressed and a desire to make America great again. In other words, make America white again. That's what ICE is all about. In the same way that the racist police occupy and terrorize, beat, and kill Black people and communities of color, ICE agents are boldly and viciously carrying out raids and roundups of undocumented workers and even documented. The Latinx, Asian, Arab, Caribbean, African, and Muslim communities are under siege right now, sisters and brothers, under siege. Of course, the extra oppression of anti-Blackness hits the immigrant community as well. As BAJI, the Black Alliance for Just Immigration, states, Black immigrants are much more likely than nationals from other regions to be deported due to a criminal conviction. Now, Trump loves to paint a picture that they are going after hardened criminals. We're all supposed to be so afraid of these rapists and murderers that are lurking in every corner. And he makes it sound as if immigrants are the most violent of all. And that, of course, is a bold-faced lie. One of the things that they're doing is that coming into the United States without papers is not a criminal offense. It's not a felony. It's a civil offense. But they're making it sound as if they're breaking the law and are criminals just on that aspect alone. And as you know, many immigrants are forced to use false Social Security numbers because how else can you get a job? And that's being treated as if it's some horrible criminal offense. In fact, this is Trump's Willie Horton. This chilling terror over the migrant community in the U.S. is big business for the prison industrial complex. While migrants live in fear, prison CEOs salivate. Two companies that have rightfully earned the hatred of the anti-mass incarceration movement, CoreCivic, which is formerly the Corrections Corporation of America, and the GEO Group, operate for-profit prisons and immigration detention centers in many states and for the government. As the Times states, the New York Times, the worse the news for immigrants, the better for the two companies. When a member of the Trump administration issues a memo or executive order, gives a speech or tweets about the crackdown on immigrants, shares of the two companies rise. Since the election, CoreCivic's stock price has climbed 120% and GEO has gained 80%. This war on migrants is profitable, and it is worldwide. The United Nations Refugee Agency reports that the deaths of refugees and migrants crossing the Mediterranean in 2016 hit a record high. According to the UN, almost 4,000 lives have been lost in 2016, and the year was still not over. But advocates believe that as many as 20,000 people have died at sea in the last 2 decades. 20,000 people. Many of the dead are from Libya, Eritrea, Tunisia, and Somalia, and an increasing number from Syria as a result of ongoing U.S. intervention there. No matter what the conditions were at home, poverty or war, the only ones to blame for this mass tidal wave of migration is U.S. and British imperialism. It is imperialism that has created the conditions for people to leave their homelands. And until imperialist policies are overturned, workers will be forced to migrate. On January 2016, over a year ago, Europol, the European Union's so-called criminal intelligence agency, reported that at least 10,000 unaccompanied child refugees had disappeared after arriving in Europe. 10,000 children. How do you lose 10,000 children? You don't. This is orchestrated by human traffickers in complicity with law enforcement. You Google this now and nothing comes up. Where is the outcry? If this had been 10,000 white children and not Syrian or African or Middle Eastern, there would be a worldwide outcry demanding they be found. Now the only cry is from all those mothers who will never see their child again. Trump's entire presidential campaign was predicated against immigrants, on law and order, building that pinche wall, and banning Muslims are the cornerstones of his administration. All are racist and hateful and anti-worker. All this while his administration destroys access to health care. The number one goal is to divide the working class at a time when unity is most urgent, if the working class is to fight back against the growing assaults on all the people in this country. When you think about the immigration struggle, especially for those that are not politically conscious and organized, they've got to remember, and we've got to teach them, rights belong to persons, not to citizens. So if they are taking away the rights of the undocumented, sooner or later, their goal is to take away the rights of everybody, which is exactly what is happening. This is all a diversion against the Trump administration's wildly ramped up war drive that threatens people around the world. This is ramped up to the 9th degree, more than even Reagan or either Bush. His budget proposal is disgusting. Meanwhile, he has already sent more U.S. grounds to Syria. And they carried out a bombing raid on a mosque this week that killed dozens of people. And now they're threatening to go to war with Korea. Missed page. So what do we do, sisters and brothers and comrades? What do we do in the face of this crisis? What do we do as imperialism plunders, continues unabated and on steroids, as they attempt to drive a huge section of workers underground, sort of diverting us from the attention of what they're doing to all of us? What are we going to do? Well, do that, make a lot of noise. Exactly. I want to raise two things today. The Trump administration is at war. It's a war on the most vulnerable, a war on the oppressed. But make no mistake, its casualties are everyone that is not of the 1%. Everyone that is not rich, white, and a member of the ruling class is being targeted. And in a war, you must call out the troops to engage in battle. And the next battle right in front of us is to fight for the lives of the class we love so much is Mayday. But before I talk about Mayday, as I wind up, I do want to bring your attention to the climate march set for Washington, D.C. on April 29th. Climate change creates forced migration. We cannot leave this demonstration in the hands of the liberals who are running it now. Their role is putting a brake on the struggle, or they apologize for the capitalists. They're lauding the Paris Treaty, which is nothing. It's hardly enough. They're saying, well, at least we won that. Time to settle is over. So we've got to be sure that we take our class politics to that demonstration, even if we're just in the handful, because we can't let this dire issue be in the hands of the liberals. But 2 days later is Mayday. I think it's convenient that they organized that demonstration so close to Mayday. Let us remind ourselves that it was immigrants, primarily from Mexico and Latin America, that revived Mayday in 2006. That was a great day. That was a great development for the workers and oppressed in this country. Because this is a day that is our day. It's a demonstration that represents the interests of those who work and not for those that exploit. And so May Day must be dominated by anti-capitalist forces and by genuine revolutionaries. We've got to talk class struggle. We've got to talk about building the revolutionary movement more than ever before, and May Day is the perfect day for that. Our weapons right now in this battle and in this war is our leaflets and social media to get the word out about May Day. It's going to the hospitals and the subways and schools and campuses and let everyone know. Don't go to work on May 1st. Don't go to school. Don't shop if you can. We will try to have your back if there's many workers that can't call in sick or can't take the day off. They don't have the luxury of personal days or vacation days. And yet immigrants are coming out and risking losing their jobs on May Day. But it can't just be a day of immigrants. The stakes are way too high. And so I urge all of you to come to the meeting here Monday night, this Monday, right? Yeah, this Monday at 6 p.m. here. Because it's such a great opportunity. May Day is not on a Saturday. I just finished reading this article that talked about Saturday demos and spoke against them. That back in the day, in the 1800s and so forth and so on, the working class movement never called demonstrations on Saturday, and it wasn't until later on that the movement started calling demos on Saturday because they felt more people would come. And that's, we've called many a demo on Saturday, but, we got to start thinking differently, real different. I mean, we've got to worry, we've got to be scared, we've got to be angry, we've got to be fighting, and let's not call any more Saturday demos. The hell with it. And so May Day is on a Monday. It's on a Monday. And so we've got to work to get people out. The immigrant rights organizations believe that immigrants are coming out on May the 1st. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure because it's so fucking scary right now. And people know that if they go to a demonstration or to an action, the migra, which is how you say the ice in Spanish, are waiting at the corners. And so each one of you, especially if you're not a person of color, it's your task. It's your task to defend these workers. It's your task to accompany them in court. It's your task to go with them and interpret if you need to. It's your task to say, as they said under fascist Germany, if they come for you in the morning, they're going to come for me at night. We've all got to function like that. And we've got to go to May Day first and foremost in solidarity with the migrant workers who are under attack. But there is no hierarchy of oppression, because we want to go to May Day saying the Black Lives Matter struggle is just as important as it was when they shot down Trayvon Martin cold blood. And so, in addition to all the outreach, we encourage you to come to the meeting Monday. We encourage you to build and organize for April 1st, the PPA action for the Black Lives Matter movement, and do everything you can in the short period left to organize for May Day. May Day has to be politically and organizationally a battle cry against the right wing, because the white supremacists, the Nazis, and the reactionaries are in control in Washington, and that affects all of us. So on to May Day 2017, all power to the migrants, all power to cis and trans women, all power to the workers. Shut down the fucking walls and open up the borders. And May Day where? Union Square. Oh, Are y'all coming or not? Mayday where? Union Square. Right on. It's interesting. I want to end my remarks on the Philippines also. But I do want to mention one thing, a couple of things. One is that I didn't have a chance to raise in my talk, when we're talking about forced migration, right, and the various conditions in places around the world, that every single problem, in our opinion, every single problem in the world is due to U.S. and British imperialism. And in the case of Guatemala, like many areas in Central America, where the revolutionary struggles there for decades have tried to oust the transnational corporations, have tried to implement policies that will benefit their people. In every incident, U.S. imperialism has gone in and overturned that kind of movement by blood, death, assassinations, coups, and all of that. And so when recently, actually was on International Women's Day, when in Guatemala City, 40 young women that were orphans, poor, and so forth, were burned to death in a shelter that was supposed to take care of them. This incident has actually ignited a movement in Guatemala and across Latin America. And they attribute it and they rightly call this femicide. And it's part of the ongoing femicide by the state, by the capitalist states against the people. And I want to mention that because next Saturday in front of the United Nations at 3 p.m., there's going to be an action in support of these women and children. And that's going to be a very busy weekend for us. Some of us are going to Detroit. Monica is going to be honored in Philadelphia with Pam Africa and Ramona Africa. This is not a small thing, comrades. We should be very proud of this, because Pam and Ramona Africa are black liberation fighters that defend Mumia Abu Jamal. And Mumia Abu Jamal is you can only go, all hail Mumia. And for his sisters to honor one of our comrades, that's a big fucking deal, And I wish I could be there, but I'll be in Detroit. So whoever doesn't go to Detroit or Philadelphia, please go to the UN to support the Guatemalans next Saturday at 3 o'clock. About the Mexicans, I actually don't know the actual number. I've heard several things. I think the movement is beginning to gather that information. It's in the thousands that are either detained or deported. How many of the percentage of those are Mexican? I actually don't know. We need to find that out. I've actually been in shock myself. This has been a really hard period. And I think about that because it's sort of like between the killing of black people and the deportations of our people, black and brown people are in trauma, sisters and brothers. We are being traumatized. It's a miracle we don't go ballistic every day in one way or the other. It's a miracle, right? And only the political struggle, keeps you being conscious, having a perspective, and knowing that our struggle will one day be victorious, where there will be no borders, which is what we're struggling for. We're struggling for there to be no borders. People, we don't need borders. We should all be free to go wherever, like it used to be. And the reason why there are borders is because of capitalism and imperialism. They don't respect borders. They think they can go anywhere around the world, because they do go anywhere around the world. Like the sister said, why aren't there Cuban soldiers here? Why are there U.S. soldiers every fucking place? It's like it's just, and to be able to shake that colonized attitude. One of the things that I read about that got me so angry was when a teacher in Hawaii said that they were not going to teach students of illegal parents. Hawaii is a colonized, occupied land. Everybody except Hawaiians should get the hell out of Hawaii. And there you have this teacher dare say that he's not going to teach. It just shows you how imperialism is so strong and so brainwashes, our people, and how we have to fight. I think the brother who said that, according to the picture that I saw, was Asian. And ICE people, the ICE agents are black and brown. A lot of them are brown. A lot of them are Mexicans. And just to show you how they have been bought into this colonized attitude, just like sometimes cops, are black and brown and do horrific things. The only good cop and the only good ICE person is one who quits that job. That's the only good person. Another thing that got me really angry was when the Trump administration spent millions of dollars to open up the office called VOICE, which stands for Victims of Immigrants, something or another. This office is set for the handful, the 5 people that happen to have been killed by an immigrant, I mean, all the black people that have died, where's the fucking offices for them, for those families? 5 immigrants killed, and it's a miracle that you don't kill more when you're being told that you are not valued, that you can't go home because your mother died and you can't go home, or your child is sick and you can't go back home, and you're caught drinking, because who wouldn't get drunk under those kind of circumstances? And and then you're called a criminal because of that, and so the 5 people out of the 14 million that committed a crime are receiving an office. And this is part of the white supremacist attitude that is running, and in that sense, I differ from the sister here who said that the Obama and Trump is not different. It is. I agree. They absolutely represent the same system, but the Trump administration is a white supremacist administration, and part of the reason why they still go after Obama is because he's the first black president. Right. That's the reason why they go after him. They can't leave it alone. They cannot leave it alone. And when the ICE so-called agency, which is like their union, the National Border Patrol was the very first, the National Border Patrol Council, it was the very first time in the history of the Border Patrol Council that endorsed a U.S. president, when they endorsed Obama. And their statement when they endorsed Trump, and their statement reads like, a call to white supremacists. And in that statement, they also attacked Obama. They can't get over that. That diss against Obama is a message to the black community that we're in charge now. That's what that's all about. So I want to also end with the Filipinos, because I agree. I've gone to many places in Latin America. Mexico is very poor. I don't believe at all, I can't believe whoever said that somebody's that's going to be deported because they speak English is going to get better jobs. It's kind of crazy, and it's kind of like ridiculous, Usually, anyway, I'm not even going to go there. But Mexico is also a colonized country. Is it a dangerous country because of the billions of dollars that the U.S. government uses to push the drug industry in that country. Billions of dollars are told to the people of this country that this money is to fight the drug war. And that's a lie. It's to fight the people. That's what's going on in Mexico. Ayotzinapa 43 is just one of many examples of the horrific conditions that Mexicans face right now. When we talk about borders, Mexicans before the recent 20 years or so used to go back and forth all the time. Most immigrants, especially Mexicanos, didn't stay. They came, they made some money, then they would go back, and then there was this back and forth. Migrants are staying here longer because of the repression. So it's like this dual messages that they're telling. They're trying to brainwash the people, that white people, and people of color that don't get it and are sold out and confused and colonized. They're trying to tell them that Mexicans are here to steal jobs. That's another lie. No jobs are stolen by immigrants, and wages do not go down because of immigrants. These are falsehoods that all economists shed. So the Philippines, I was shocked too by the poverty, and like I said, I've gone to Mexico, which is very poor, and the poverty is really deep. What I was most taken aback with, and I'm saying this because our party and everyone who hears our voices here and beyond really should look at the way that the Filipinos organize and try to emulate that in the way that we can based to our conditions. They have deep roots among the working class. I met someone who I feel that after the revolution and the Filipinos have a socialist country and the workers are in control of the Philippines, that this brother whose name I'm forgetting, I think his name was Sam Africa. I don't remember his name. His last name I remember. Sunny Africa. He's an economist. And I was blown away at this conference that he gave this talk on Marxist economics. And you could tell this guy was so smart and really understood, you know, Marxist economics, but that he could break it down so that anybody could understand it. I was floored. I mean, I was floored, and you knew, I had the feeling that this guy was going to be the minister of the economy after the revolution, you know. And more important, when they opened up the floor, here's these people that I had been dancing with and partying with and going to demonstrations with and hanging out with, and, you know, all these people took the mic and asked these questions about the economy that were like, okay. I mean, I felt like an idiot. I mean, I felt like I knew 1 + 1 = 2, and that's about all. In the face of how the Filipino comrades have lifted the consciousness of the movement and the masses. And I also had gone to a demonstration that they had called. It was a national demonstration. I forgot the issue, you know. But the day after, they were evaluating the demonstration, and they said, okay, the Bayan Front was supposed to bring 5,000 people. Y'all actually just brought 4,000. What went wrong? The Filipino Women's Organization, y'all were supposed to bring 10,000 women. Y'all brought 11,000. Share what went right, you know. And I was like, wow. I mean, this is real organization. This is real organization. And we've got to look at that as an example. We have just a few weeks left before Mayday. And we have really, from this moment forward, have to do everything every day to build Mayday. I am sure that on Monday night here, we will have hundreds of, if not thousands of flyers so that you can take, you know, either we need to do outreach either in brigades with people or just do your own outreach at the subway. You know, we will have announcements about the kind of committees that we're going to form. And we're behind. We're behind because this is a difficult year, but we have got to catch up. And it's on each and every one of us in this room to catch up for Mayday 2017.